Mexico City, one of the largest urban areas in the world with one of the most famous metro systems. The Mexico City Metro spans 200 kilometers. In North America, only the New York subway is larger. And with 4 million daily riders, comparable to New York City, Mexico City's metro can get very, very crowded. So join me as I set foot in the Mexican capital's underground labyrinth. What's it like riding the Mexico City Metro?
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome to a brand new Trains Are Awesome. If you've ever been, you'll know that Mexico City has a lot of traffic. This has been the case for many decades. In a previous video, I talked about how the city built bus lanes to avoid some traffic. Buses help a little, but in many cases, trains are the better solution. That's what civil engineers in the 1960s thought too. After they recommended building a subway, construction of the first line began in 1967, and by 1969, the first section of Line 1 opened. Over the next 50 years, the network has expanded. Metros began replacing the trams that used to run on the city streets, and today the network is 200 kilometers or 125 miles long. There are 195 stations and 12 lines, numbered 1 through 9, 12, A, and B. So I'm at Hidalgo Station, and this is going to be my very first time riding the Mexico City Metro. I've wanted to do this for years. Here we go. We're at Hidalgo Station, not far from the city center. We're riding Line 2, which opened in 1970. Line 2 is by far the busiest of all the lines, with almost 200 million riders recorded in 2023. Hidalgo Station provides an interchange with Metro Line 3, as well as several Metrobus BRT routes. You'll see this multiple times throughout the video, but riding the Mexico City Metro often means you'll have to walk quite a bit. A ride on the Metro costs 5 pesos, and we will be paying using this integrated mobility ticket. Fortunately, this is the last staircase for now. It's only a minute or so until our train shows up. This specific model is an NMO2 train built in 2005. The advantage of these NMO2 trains, which is one of the newer models, is that you can walk through the entire train. This helps a little bit with crowd control since it provides more space for people to stand and it lets people walk to emptier parts of the train. On each line, there are maps hanging inside of the train showing you all the stops. You might notice these pictures. Every single station on the Mexico City Metro, as well as the buses, the cable cars, etc., has its own unique pictogram identifying it. Some cities use numbers to identify stations, but Mexico City opted for these drawings instead, each one representing something related to the area around the station. So I grew up in Tokyo, Japan, famous for its super crowded trains. You've probably seen those videos of railway staff pushing people to get the doors to shut. I've traveled to many places, and in my experience, I think Mexico City comes closest to Tokyo in terms of crowds. This is the same Line 2 that we were just on the same day, just a few hours later, during rush hour. Thankfully, because the system is relatively new compared to other cities worldwide, Many of the platforms are decently wide. But there are a number of other ways in which the Mexico City Metro addresses overcrowding. The crowding is the worst at transfer stations. 44 stations on the system are transfer stations where you can change between 2 or more lines. To transfer, you must follow signs with a big letter C on them. The C stands for correspondencia. Sometimes the signs kind of disappear while you're following them, so we definitely got lost at 1 or 2 stations, but generally they're quite consistent and easy to follow. But what do you do when tens of thousands of people are all transferring at the same time? If everybody just went straight to the platform, there would be dangerous crushes. Here at Pino Suarez Station, there are long corridors connecting between the 1 and 2 lines. Once you get to the concourse for line 1, there's this massive gate that you have to wait in front of. Several Metro staff are waiting at the gate, opening it every once in a while to let a few people through while the rest waits. It takes quite a long time before it's your turn to get through the gate. At most stations, foot traffic is separated by direction, either with stickers on the ground or with actual fences. And at very busy stations, sometimes the platforms have what's known as a Spanish solution, where there are 2 tracks, both with a side platform as well as a middle platform in between. These long corridors seem to be a favorite way to control crowds here in the system. We rode the Metro quite intensively during our week in the city, and almost every interchange we made required a long underground walk. Sometimes they make the walk even longer in quite creative ways, like here at Pantitlan. Pantitlan is somewhat of a superstation in the east of the city, where people from the suburbs can take multiple different Metro lines into the city. With 4 Metro lines, 2 BRTs, and many local buses, I'm sure you can imagine it gets quite busy. Given the limited space that they had, they built these fences so you literally have to zigzag through the halls to make your connection. For a busy time of day, it totally makes sense. But at a quieter moment, like right now, well, let's just say I got my steps in. But we're not here to just talk about crowds. There are many other interesting features on the Metro. Like archaeology. As many as 20,000 artifacts have been found, many from the Aztecs. Some findings are on display right here in the Metro station. It's like visiting a museum on your commute. Some stations have other artwork or design elements that reference their location, like Instituto del Petróleo, which has these oil barrels at the platform. From a technology perspective, the Metro is also quite interesting. If you look at the tracks, you'll notice that they don't exactly look like regular train tracks. There's 2 rails in the middle, but then also these metal beams next to it. Let's watch a train come in and you'll see why. That's right, this train is running on rubber tires. There are metal wheels on the inside that use the regular rails to guide the train, but the weight of the train rests on the rubber tires, and all the movement is done by the tires as well. 10 out of the 12 Metro lines use rubber tire trains. The exceptions are lines 12 and A. Rubber tire trains have a few advantages. They're better at accelerating and braking, better at climbing steep slopes, they're less bumpy and quieter. Mexico City isn't the only city with a rubber-tired Metro. Sapporo in Japan, Montreal in Canada, and Paris, France are all examples. In fact, the Parisian Metro operator was heavily involved in the development of the Mexico City Metro, which is one of the reasons why it's the way it is. But there is another reason. Mexico City is sinking. The city was built on land that used to be a giant lake. The lake was drained, and the city currently pumps a ton of water from underground reservoirs, and this is causing the ground to sink. The rubber tire trains are better equipped to deal with the potential changes to the tracks because of this sinking. The engineering of the Metro has made it quite resilient. For example, when a huge earthquake hit in 1985, there was no damage on the entire system. That doesn't mean everything is always perfect. Many people will remember the tragic accident on Line 12 that happened in May of 2021. As a train was running over an overpass, the bridge collapsed underneath it, leading to the death of 26 people. What happened? Well, it's complicated. Basically, due to bad welding and broken metal pieces, a girder broke and a section of the track fell down while a train was running over it. This line had been plagued with issues for years. The company that built the particular section had never done railway construction before. It had been closed once already in 2014 because people were noticing that it was swaying too much. And at the time of the collapse, Metro was already under scrutiny for cost cutting and negligence due to a number of incidents that had happened in the months leading up to this collapse. The government launched an investigation into the incident. However, they redacted part of the results because, according to the head of the government of the city, a certain Claudia Scheinbaum, the firm conducting the investigation wasn't sharing what she called the complete truth. I won't talk about politics of this event anymore. I don't really want to be accused of spreading propaganda again. Been there, done that. But when I didn't bring this up in my earlier video, the one where I briefly introduced every mode of transport in the city, people got angry about that too, so you really just can't please everyone. But suffice it to say, the system isn't immune to negligence, cost-cutting, or corruption, like every system around the world. Accountability is important for any system to function properly. Anyway, as a first-time visitor to Mexico City, I found the metro quite easy to use. Like I said, there were a few times where it seemed like there was some signage missing, but other than that, we found it easy to navigate. Similarly, there were a few occasions where the wait was a little long, but most times we barely had to wait at all. Now, there is one more thing that I want to discuss. So, there are 10 numbered lines, but then there's also lines A and B. Why are they named differently? Well, lines A and B were built with a different purpose in mind. They are each referred to as a so-called Línea Alimentadora. See, Mexico City is its own federal entity, but surrounding Mexico City is the state of Mexico. Many people live in the state of Mexico but work in Mexico City, so lines A and B were designed to bring these suburban commuters into the city, whereas the primary goal for the numbered lines is to move people within the city. Line B opened in 1999, and it really isn't that different from the other lines. It has two colors on the map, which is kind of interesting, but other than that, it's just your average Mexico City Metro with rubber-tired trains. Line A is the interesting one. We've come back to Pantitlan Station. Remember the station with the zigzag corridor? We're here this time to ride Line A, which starts here and then runs down to La Paz in the state of Mexico. Line A opened in 1991. It has 10 stations and 14 kilometers of track. I don't know if you could tell by looking at the train outside, but it uses very different technology from the other lines. First of all, it uses regular steel wheels on steel rails, just like most trains around the world. The trains themselves are a bit lighter than the regular metro trains, and finally, while the rubber-tired metro lines get their electricity from the tracks, Line A gets it from overhead wires. In this way, it is similar to Line 12, which uses trains with the same specifications. But why was Line A built this way? Because running more standard trains significantly lowers the cost of maintenance on the line. For a long time, because of its suburban nature, you had to pay a separate fare when taking Line A if you were going to transfer to one of the Lombard lines. Thankfully, this extra fare was abolished in 2013, and now there's a free transfer at Bandidlang. The difference in technology is fun because it lets you see rolling stock that you can't really see on the rest of the network. Line A connects to Line 2 of the cable cars, and that's a great way to get back to the city. Subscribe to Trains Are Awesome for a video about the cable cars in Mexico City coming soon. So now we've just about used all the footage that I took of the Mexico City Metro. While every system around the world has flaws, I was very impressed with many aspects of this Metro. It's a system that I had read a lot about over the years, and I was very excited to see it for myself when I came here. There's something iconic about the design of the old trains, don't you think? Anyways, if you're new here, this is kind of what I do. I ride trains from all over the world, talk about their history, things I like about them, etc. If that sounds like something you'd enjoy, then please subscribe to Trains Are Awesome. Check us out on Instagram, Patreon, visit the Trains Are Awesome store, it's almost Christmas, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.